My name is Dorothy. At my sister's wedding, her mother-in-law looked at me as if I were a ghost, walking right past without a nod, without even meeting my gaze. That cold stare, from someone who learned early on to despise others. I stood there in a tailored dress, with a drink in hand, guarding a secret she couldn't even imagine. Her name is Eleanor. A woman so proud of her surname that she probably signs it in gold ink. For the past 6 months, she'd been trying to acquire a tech company, completely unaware that I'm one of its founders. The most ironic part is that her company relies directly on ours. It was a project I built from the ground up, while raising my sister and leaving behind the hard life we once led. But Eleanor only saw what she wanted. Just another person, no important name, no relevant position. She only saw the surface. That's how people like her operate. And that's fine. For a few minutes, I was just another face in the crowd. Then, I was called to give a surprise speech. The moment I introduced myself and revealed who I was, everything in her gaze changed. Her posture, her facial expression, even the way she held her wine glass. Some people don't like surprises, and Eleanor was one of them. She turned pale, and I just smiled. They say the worst part of loss is the silence that follows. It's true. But nobody talks about the noise that precedes it. The phone ringing at an ungodly hour. The buzzing in your ears when someone says something you never thought you'd hear. In my case, it was my college advisor, his voice grave. "Dorothy, your mother was in an accident. She passed away." Just like that, no beating around the bush. The day before, she was planning to visit us, my younger sister Christina and me. The next day, I was driving back to the city where we grew up, which suddenly felt so strange without her. I was 22, exhausted from final exams. Christina, 17, was a week away from high school graduation. Our father had left years ago to start a new life with another family. So it was just Christina and me. 2 orphans, a car, and a future that collapsed overnight. The funeral was a blur. I can barely remember it. But then came the harsh, clear reality. Debts. So many debts. My mother was self-employed, and at some point, everything got out of control. Loans, overdue bills, a struggling business. She must have tried to protect us until the end. She didn't tell us anything. But as soon as the obituary came out, the collectors appeared in full force. They took the house, the car, everything we owned. All that was left was a small suitcase with the clothes I had packed for spring break. My scholarship covered college, but rent, food, Christina's school, all of that was our responsibility now. Alone. That night, after the last relative left and the door closed, I sat on the floor with Christina. She was crying, huddled up. It was then that I understood. No one else was coming. I was the only adult in her life now. So I made a decision. I would finish college, get any job, and keep us afloat. I started working in the university cafeteria, tutored some students remotely at night, and slept about 4 hours a day when I could. But every penny I earned served 2 people, 2 lives. Along the way, I lost my boyfriend. He was a really great guy, but I couldn't juggle my many responsibilities with our relationship, unfortunately. People talk about character building as if it's something beautiful, elegant. But mine was forged at the edge of an overdraft and on crowded buses. I was shaped there in the tight spots when I looked at my little sister and knew she still deserved a future, even if I had to give up mine to show her the way. After I graduated, there was no celebration. No cap throwing, no photos with friends. Just a deep sigh and a job offer at a mid-sized company that handled internal processes. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and that was enough. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. Christina took the bedroom, and I slept on the sofa. She started public university, and I spent my days dealing with spreadsheets and answering client calls. Every night I made dinner, even if it was just rice and eggs, And on weekends, I tried to catch up on sleep from the grueling shifts during the week. Even exhausted, I didn't stop thinking about the future. I enrolled in online courses, marketing, automation, anything that could improve my resume. I didn't know when the opportunity would come, but I knew I'd be ready when it did. And it did. On a rainy Thursday night, I received a message from Jane, a former college classmate who remembered my entrepreneurial side. She and another friend were creating a tech tool to automate internal processes and needed someone to manage operations and put together proposals for the first clients. I was hesitant. It seemed risky, but also very interesting, and it had been a long time since I felt so excited about something. So I accepted. My life became two. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., I was at the office, reporting to my manager. From 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., I was immersed in code, flowcharts, and presentations with Jane. We worked in coffee shops and used borrowed servers. Many nights, I'd pass out with the laptop still on. Money was tight, arguments happened. One of our partners ended up quitting after 6 months with no results. Jane and I almost gave up too, but we kept going. The turning point came when a company tested our tool and managed to reduce their work time by 40%. They told 15 more companies. Suddenly, we had several meetings scheduled, overflowing inboxes, feedback coming from all sides. One day, a famous tech blog featured us, and that's when our first real wave hit. Even then, I didn't quit my stable job. I learned early on that stability is too fragile. I saved every extra penny. I handled customer support, accounts, system errors, all during lunch breaks or late at night. Jane became the public face of the company. She worked, gave interviews, appeared at events, participated in talks. I stayed behind the scenes, and I liked it. While many people were chasing fancy titles and LinkedIn fame, I only wanted one thing: peace. I wanted a life where Christina no longer had to count coins at the grocery store, where her future wasn't defined by everything we lost. She got into a state university on merit. I paid the bills on time, we had savings, health insurance, and everything at home was working. For me, that was already luxury. No one saw how much it cost, and I didn't even care if they did. But this silence, this choice to remain invisible, made people like Eleanor appear and assume I was just anyone. And that's fine, because I'd rather be underestimated than misjudged. I'd rather be invisible than receive false praise. But life has a funny way of bringing things full circle, especially when your sister decides to get married. It was a Tuesday night when she called me. I had just collapsed on the sofa, still in my work clothes, eating cold pasta straight from the container. She sounded excited, a little breathless, but also a bit nervous. "Dorothy," she said, "I have something to tell you." I thought it was something about college, maybe a new project, an internship, anything like that. But I didn't expect what came next. "I'm getting married." My fork froze in midair. "You're getting what?" "To Dylan," she blurted out, as if tearing off a bandage. She continued, "We've been together for a while now, seriously, but I didn't know how to tell you." I blinked. I had heard about a Dylan once, very briefly, but she had never mentioned anything serious. "Christina married? That's huge. Are you okay?" She laughed, a little nervously. "I'm more than okay, I'm happy. I just needed to tell you before things got too far. He wants to meet you." That's when she got my attention. Anyone who wanted to marry my sister needed to meet me. Yes, I was her sister, but I was also much more than that. I was the one who stayed. I was her mother, teacher, friend, emergency contact. Everything. If someone wanted to enter her life now, I needed to look them in the eye and understand who they were inside. We arranged dinner for Friday. Nothing formal, just a quiet evening. I offered to cook. I still remember opening the door and seeing Dylan standing there, flowers in one hand, a bottle of wine in the other, and a smile that seemed a little too practiced. There was something about him that sounded familiar. We exchanged some polite words, sat down, and started chatting. He was friendly, articulate, and it was clear he really liked my sister. But the surname caught my attention. Sinclair, I said aloud, turning the name over in my head like a coin. Does that have anything to do with Sinclair Corp? He paused for a second too long. It's my mother's company. Then everything made sense. Eleanor was one of our biggest clients, and what's more, she had been trying to buy our platform for months. Her emails always came filled with hidden promises, in a way that implied she thought she was doing us a favor just by showing interest. She was a businesswoman, 100% expensive clothes, a dry demeanor, and a reputation for breaking off partnerships just to pick up the pieces afterward. She was in all the industry blogs. She wasn't cruel, just cold, pragmatic, and only saw numbers. And now, there I was, sitting at the table across from her son. I kept my expression calm, without changing my tone of voice. I didn't mention the company, nor did I touch on business. That night was about Christina. If Dylan was truly a good guy, I'd find a way to deal with the rest later. Later, Christina pulled me aside in the kitchen. You were a little quiet. Is everything okay? I nodded, just surprised. You really love him, don't you? Yes, she replied. He's calm, caring, he listens. I looked closely at her face. She wasn't asking me for anything. She was happy, shining from within. And Christina never shone for trivial reasons. Okay, I finally said, then I'm with you. Weeks passed quickly, and soon the wedding day arrived. Christina looked beautiful, but it was more than the dress or the makeup. It was that glow of someone who knows they are loved and loves back, without fear. Before entering, she held my hand and whispered, "Thank you for everything." I just smiled. There was nothing more to say. At the reception, I was quieter, just chatting with a few guests, away from the commotion. That's when I saw Eleanor approaching with two men. She walked past me again, didn't even look, no nod. It was intentional, cold, calculated. But I felt nothing, just a quiet certainty. She still didn't know who I really was. But that was about to change. I wasn't supposed to give a speech. My name wasn't on the schedule. But someone, I don't know who, put my name on the list of speakers. A catering staff member discreetly called me over and said, "You're next in 2 minutes." I blinked, confused. Next for what? She pointed to the stage. The microphone is ready. I could have refused, perhaps I even should have. But something inside me, an old weariness, a quiet pride, a desire not to let it pass, made me stand up. It was my sister's wedding, the closest person I've ever had to a daughter, and everyone there still didn't really know who I was. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked to the front of the room. Good evening, I began, my voice firm. My name is Dorothy. I am Christina's sister. People stopped talking, watching me. But I wasn't just her sister as she grew up. When our mother died, I became her guardian. We had no one else. Our father had left a long time ago. The room fell silent. Glasses were lowered. Cutlery stopped clinking against plates. At that time, I was still finishing college, but there was no time to cry or stop. She needed food, a homeschool tuition. So I worked day, night, weekends. I slept little. I lost friends. I lost someone I loved. I looked at Christina. Her eyes were already filled with tears. But we made it. Because she is brilliant, courageous, and has a heart that forgave me for all the times I failed. The whole room was still. Even Eleanor from across the room looked at me differently. And I also wanted to say something. I continued a little louder. Throughout all these years, while I was trying to keep everything going, I also helped build a startup, a software platform. Some of you might even use our platform. That sentence came out stronger than I expected. I saw a few raised eyebrows. guests exchanging glances. My partner Jane was there. She was the one who jumped into this crazy idea with me. We started with borrowed code and broken laptops. Today, we help some of the biggest companies in the country. I let that hang in the air for a moment. And even though I didn't come here to talk about work, I shared this because it's part of our story. The story that brought me to this room, this day, this moment. I looked at Christina and Dylan. I am so proud of you both. You have found something rare. Trust, partnership, joy. And it's an honor to be here to say, you are ready. I stepped away from the microphone, nodded to the applauding room, and started to walk back to my table. But I didn't get far. Eleanor appeared out of nowhere, like a shadow on the wall. She nodded with a somewhat stiff smile. Dorothy, right? Nice speech. Thank you. Are you the co-founder of Green Tech? She asked. I nodded. Yes, the same company you're trying to buy. Her smile wavered slightly. I had no idea, she said. Why didn't you say anything when we met? I looked her directly in the eyes. Because I wanted you to see who I was when you thought I was no one. She didn't reply, and she didn't need to. I gave a polite smile. Enjoy your evening, Mrs. Eleanor. I walked past her and went back to Jane, who gave a subtle smile but didn't say anything. We toasted. The tension was gone. The rest of the night was light, happy. Christina danced like someone freed from the shadows of the past. Dylan was kind. Eleanor was polite, but there was something different in her gaze. Less arrogance, more calculation. That's fine because I didn't lie, but I also didn't tell everything. And no, we never sold the company to Eleanor. Not out of spite, nor because of how she treated me. The truth is that the offers were incredible on paper, but I learned to see beyond the numbers. Her interest wasn't based on mutual respect. It was based on the idea that everything and everyone has a price. And I don't do business with people who only discover their own value after reading a resume. So Jane and I remained independent, growing with purpose. We didn't need a merger. We needed space to grow our own way. Ironically, Sinclair Corp still uses our platform. Their employees log support tickets through the same portal as everyone else. We respond quickly, professionally, always politely, never personally, always strictly professionally. Dylan never mentioned the topic. He respects boundaries and, more importantly, respects Christina. Over time, we've built something akin to trust. I don't hold a grudge against him because of his surname. He isn't his father, never was. Christina is thriving. She has peace in her life now, true peace. She teaches, tends her garden, and volunteers on weekends. And she smiles in a way she didn't when we were younger, when it felt like everything could fall apart at any moment. It was for that smile that I fought. That is my return. Sometimes, people still think I'm just the quiet girl in the background, ordinary. And I let them think that, because I know the truth. The one who ignores you in silence is the one who will struggle to respect you when your title is announced. But at that point, their respect doesn't matter. True respect comes when no one is looking. It's not a reaction, it's a choice. Eleanor's biggest mistake wasn't underestimating me. It was thinking that not being seen meant not being important. But I never needed attention. All I needed was to know my sister would be okay, and now she is. That is more than enough for me. If there's one thing this whole journey taught me, it's this: you don't grow by being loud or forcing people to notice you. You grow by being who you are, quietly, constantly, and with dignity. When people notice, let it be on your terms, not theirs. Because in the end, what matters isn't who applauds you, but who you protected when no one was looking. Thank you for listening to Dorothy's story. What did you think of this story? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share this video to support us, and subscribe to the channel for more surprising stories.